Hello, and welcome to the first ever podcast from Off the Stoop. We're so happy to be here, and we got an exciting set of topics today. First, we're going to talk about One Piece, Chapter 968, then My Hero Academia, Chapter 257, and finally, Black Clover, Chapter 236. Stick around for a fun and lighthearted discussion filled with laughter, speculation, and theories. Enjoy the conversation, and we'll let DJ start us off with a recap of One Piece, Chapter 968.
All right. So in chapter 968 of One Piece, we see the aftermath of Roger becoming the Pirate King. The term One Piece is revealed to be an all-encompassing term used to describe everything Roger gained at Laugh Tale. In a flashback near Fishman Island, Roger and Odin hear two Sea Kings discuss Poseidon's upcoming birth. They refer to her as their king and discuss the day when she will meet another king who is unnamed. In the present, Roger and Rayleigh reveal that they came too soon to obtain the One Piece. Roger leaves the crew, and Odin returns home. Odin mentions the true reason for Wano's isolation and says that he will reopen the borders until the day Joy Boy appears. He learns that Orochi has taken over with help from Kaido, and that they tried to kill Momonosuke when Odin was away with Roger. The chapter ends with Odin attempting to kill Orochi. So the most interesting thing for me in this chapter was Odin mentioning that he was going to reopen Wano's borders until the day Joy Boy appears, based on the information that he learned at Laugh Tale. So the major implication seems to be that Luffy is somehow a reincarnation of Joy Boy. So what do you guys think about that?
I can go first here.
That's the implication?
That's what it seemed like to me, unless I'm taking that differently than everyone else.
No, I mean, I agree with that in a sense. There were kind of two thoughts I had. That goes along with one. The other one was that I was thinking that we don't really necessarily know what they're talking about in timeline wise. And what I mean by that is we talked a while back on this about a possibility of them keeping a crazy theory that these bodies and people and pirates might come back in some sort of reincarnation. We don't know what devil fruit may, like the powers that some certain devil fruits may hold. There's something as crazy as time travel, so possibly something as reincarnation, and that could be a prophecy for the past Joy Boy actually returning again. But yeah, what did you guys think about that?
Well, so that's not the only mention of reincarnation in this chapter or the series as a whole, right? Because the other thing they talked about was that Poseidon or Shirahoshi, the mermaid princess, would be born in 10 years and then take another 15 years to mature. So clearly reincarnation has already been established as a mechanism within this universe. And in that same conversation between the Sea Kings, they talked about Poseidon meeting a second king who, again, that seems like another reference to Luffy. It seems like there are multiple references to Luffy in this chapter.
Yeah.
And it seems like, what I took away from this chapter is that it seems like Luffy isn't just some guy who happened to come into contact with all these people and events. It seems like he is actually predestined as an important character in this universe and in the events to come.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously, like, we've known that, but it is nice to be getting more and more of those connections. Like we've talked about before, we're in the later stages of it where he's tying off those knots that he, started so long ago, and he's connecting all these dots. And the king thing, absolutely, about Poseidon, meeting a second king, that 100%, I totally agree with you. But now, of course I know this, but to make sure you know this, can you remind me just who Joy Boy or what Joy Boy is?
Yeah, sure. So Joy Boy is, he was the person who left whatever the One Piece is at Laugh Tale. He was the original guy who pretty much kicked off all these legends and all the mysteries of the universe. He wrote multiple poneglyphs. We've seen them at there was one at Sky Island saying that the Poseidon was located at Fishman Island.
Mhm.
And then he left another poneglyph at Fishman Island saying that the Poseidon wasn't actually there, presumably because he didn't understand that it was a person when he heard about it before. But then upon going to Fishman Island, presumably he learned that it was a person who was reincarnated every 100 years or so. So Joy Boy is deeply connected with all the mysteries of this universe, as well as the Void Century. He's a major player in the Void Century.
You know what you're making me think now, like with all these connections and like reincarnation things. I mean, obviously the will of D is going to tie into this, but
yes,
throwing out a theory, he was the first D.
Not a bad theory at all.
Yep.
I mean, he seems to be very connected.
Like he's a key player in the grand story of the One Piece universe.
Right. All the mysteries from the will of D, the what happened in the Void Century, the reason for Wano's isolation, the true nature of what the One Piece is. Although this chapter made it seem like the One Piece may not be anything more than the answer to all these mysteries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely leaning more and more towards the idea of it not being like treasure whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because obviously Roger laughing and this idea of like, you know, them learning so much like after going there, like, yeah.
I wonder if all that was discussed in the last chapter with you know, him, like what you're saying, that theory of him potentially being the king, that a prophecy, like he is kind of destined to be the one pirate king, or however you want to look at that. I'm wondering if Oda will tie that in with the will of D as well, if they will all be some form of, you know, potentially, I'm putting, you know, crazy dots together right now, but if you're saying that the One Piece might not be a treasure, we could see Luffy be said king who ends up doing all of this, getting to Laugh-Tale, and him reading a Joy Boy poneglyph that basically explains that he is the One Piece and the answer to all of these things, which makes him laugh, you know, hysterically, fulfilling the prophecy that would be, you know, Luffy laughing at Laugh-Tale, or however, you know.
Yeah, so
imagining a poneglyph saying, "Hey, Luffy, hope you're doing well."
Yeah, right. All of a sudden, it's an Attack on Titan, like
exactly.
Honestly, I mean, I think Devin might be onto something here, because I mean, if you look at my chapter discussion notes as well, like I think that in this chapter it was hinted that not necessarily Luffy is the One Piece, but that the One Piece is also on some sort of reincarnation cycle and might have to do with a person. Because right in this chapter, Roger reveals to Rayleigh that they actually didn't get the One Piece. They came too early to get the One Piece. So even though the One Piece is just a term that the public came up with to describe everything Roger obtained, Roger realizes that there is something very valuable and important that they missed. Despite getting all the secrets to the world, from ancient weapons, Will of D, Void Century, Wano's role in the world, they learned all of that, but somehow they still missed the One Piece, which it seems like the One Piece might be a person, might be a reincarnation, something like that. And who's the most likely candidate but Luffy, right? And what else did Roger say? Who will be the one to find the One Piece? My son, of course.
Just keep going.
right.
Ace,
Killing it.
you could say that he did find the One Piece if Luffy really is the One Piece. If that's the case, then things are really starting to get tied together. Connor likes this. What do you have to say about that, Connor?
I am a DJ. I am loving it, dude. That is absolutely fantastic. I'm fully on board, 100%. You got me sold.
Well, I mean, I'm not sold. I'm not sold on this. I think that's kind of a bold claim, but but that seems to be what they were hinting.
I think that's a really, really, really good observation. Like very good critical analysis. Holy cow!
Yeah,
well, thank you
for sure. For the end game, I think you're definitely onto something as well. I mean, because it seems like the One Piece may be something that unifies whatever we see. Something like you've been to all these islands. Have you unified them? That's the One Piece. It's the One Piece that holds this world together. And it would be, you're right. Then Ace did find the One Piece by finding Luffy. And
it's just a scroll that just says friendship.
So this brings me to like another sort of theory in this, is that maybe the One Piece is, if it is a person, maybe it's a way to unite all the ancient weapons somehow, because we've already seen that Luffy has a deep connection to the ancient weapons. It's been hinted at before with the king or queen of the world. I think it's queen, with the pictures on the ground with Shirahoshi, who we already know is the Poseidon. And then, what was it? There were 4 pictures, right? Shirahoshi, Vivi, Blackbeard, and Luffy. So, I mean, this might be way too far out there. This might be a bold prediction, but what if those are the 3 ancient weapons and the One Piece? And the One Piece is somehow the way to bring them all together? Or, I don't know, like, I can't presume to know what the actual plan is, but somehow the 4 of those people are connected.
Yeah, you know that they are somehow deeply involved with like the big plan, or like the major game.
I think the most important thing that's being hinted at is that, I mean, reincarnation really has a role to play here, and that I mean, Luffy is definitely someone greater than just a random person. He's predestined to be a hero in some way, and I think there's been a lot of connections with him and the ancient weapons. I think, somehow those are all more people than objects than we've been led to believe. And I think, the whole reincarnation aspect is being brought into more relevance now.
Yeah. The next chapter drops next week, right? Now we're on Friday.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think it's on a regular schedule.
I'm definitely excited to see how he follows this up. Now, I think we're definitely past the lull in where the story, and like I was saying, that there is somewhat of a lull at every point in any arc, and I think we're kind of getting past that and going into the big implications, and going to end in obviously going back to Wano here. I'm thinking there may only be 1 more chapter, 2 more chapters of backstory before we start going. Now, it could be next week too.
Well, we may not
it
even
could
get
be one
the
of those
flashback.
things. Yeah, and it could be one of those things like in a movie where they mention like the big thing, like the One Piece, and then it flips to Luffy, like kind of that underlying hint of like, hey, there's something going on here.
We got to find out. They got to save some of the plot points for the present day. But right. I think they're planting all the seeds right now. And I guess if we're in theories now about what happens next, I think it's going to be, I mean, the Kaido fight's coming soon, the Odin versus Kaido fight.
Yeah.
And we don't know how long that's going to be.
Chapter. I don't think we're going to get that next chapter.
I mean, I hope so. I hope it starts. I mean, that's the end of the backstory.
But I could see him letting that be kind of the like waiting point. And he's like, I'm going to leave you like just hungry for the end, the resolution of that.
And I could see that too, because there's still a lot of mystery around what happens with Toki and her time jump to the future.
Well, so, we know, I think it's fair to assume that when he does show us.
Sorry.
We were just talking about predictions in the next chapter. I think the Kaido fight's going to happen soon.
We know if the Kaido fight does like when it happens between Kaido and Odin, I would be shocked if it is less than 3 chapters. Like, I think it'll be multiple chapters, and that makes me think this is a good point for him to say, I've been in a flashback for a while. I'm at a very good cliffhanger. Now I'm going to go to the present for a while, and then when the story becomes relevant to that fight, I'm going to then do the flashback to finish out that part. But
so here's why I disagree with you. If you look at the last 2 big flashback arcs we've had, the Nolan Montblanc arc and the Fisher Tiger arc, they told those stories start to finish, from the relevant points in their lifetimes to their deaths. And I don't think this is any different, honestly. They might abridge it in some ways so that we're left to learn some of the mysteries, how they play out in the present day. But I think he will cover the whole timeline up until Odin's death.
Okay.
And he might abridge some things, and we'll go back and learn them later. Like we didn't get the full significance of the Nolan Montblanc or the Fisher Tiger arcs until the end of the parent arc that they were inside of. Right. For Nolan Montblanc, you had the whole reveal that the other half of Jaya was shot up to Sky Island, and all that. What happened with that? Yeah. And Yeah, same with Fisher Tiger. You go on to find out that Hody Jones was the one who was behind all the like a lot of the assassination attempts in the past and everything else, and a lot of the bad blood between humans and fishmen.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely see how everything is relevant with the present day story. They'll leave some tidbits for that, but I think this backstory will go all the way to Odin's death.
That makes sense. I don't necessarily think that they're gonna have a 2 or 3 chapter fight, and I definitely could be wrong here, but I just feel like he's gonna save a lot of the drawings for the fights and everything, and save that big fighting arc for what we're gonna see in Wano, because I think there's gonna be a lot of that. I think he may just do 1 chapter max of seeing what happens between them, and then filling out the rest of the story and going back to Wano. Because I mean, it's been a good, real time wise, what, 2 months since we've seen Wano?
Probably more, because
Yeah,
it was like half a month of a break between chapters.
Yeah. So I mean, we're bound to get back to Wano here eventually. I would definitely like to see a cool fight, but I also think it saved. I feel that Odin is a character that would push Kaido to his limits, and seeing a long drawn out fight between those two is going to reveal a lot of Kaido's powers, and I think he's going to save that for Luffy or whoever fights Kaido.
Yeah, which is why I could see an abridged fight.
Yeah,
but I think we need to see Odin's death in the backstory.
Well, and Devin, you make a good point about how he wouldn't want to show us Kaido's powers in a flashback, because if you look, like, pretty much all the major villains from the previous arcs, you don't see their powers really at all in their flashbacks, or if you do, it's very subtle, it's very mysterious. Like Don Flamingo is a prime example. I mean, forever we had no clue what his
power was. He just like randomly killed people. Sorry,
and just ran like he flew in the air. Like, dude, I mean, but yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So
I think that's good for One Piece. That goes. Yep. So
tune in next week when we cover 969.
Nice. All right. So now let's get to the real OG manga, Black Clover.
Oh
wait, we're doing Black. No, we're doing My Hero right now. My bad.
We saved the best.
Yeah, okay, my bad. But obviously, Black Clover is the best. I was so wrong on that.
Not that. Did you caught up though?
Yes, I just got up.
Hell yeah! Look at that.
So in chapter 257 of My Hero Academia, we learn more about the previous One for All users. All Might reveals to Midoriya and Bakugo that most of the predecessors were obscure heroes without particularly strong quirks. This is because they were being hunted by All for One and barely managed to pass on One for All before dying. All Might decides that Midoriya should focus on learning his master's quirk, Float. Afterwards, Class 1A celebrates the new year, and All Might and Aizawa talk. And All Might resolves to stay alive and train the students. Aizawa then tells All Might that Tsukauchi has asked him to postpone his visit to see Stain. The chapter ends with the time skip to March. Dr. Uhiko is seen in a hospital, and a narration panel states that on this day, the heroes vanished from the streets. So the things I really wanted to talk about in this one is, well, first off, Midoriya mastered that extra quirk real quick, and then, like, why Float as the next one? Like, I would think that they would do it in order, or as the spirits talk to them, because the whip guy had talked to him. So I would think that it would, that's what triggers his ability, or his ability to gain those quirks or to learn them. The other thing was the talk about Stain. So I personally took it as, because I thought Stain died, so that was like a reference to, hey, you're not dying yet, chill out. And then, but that could also have some other meanings. And then the other thing was, so it time skipped to about March, and it said all the heroes had vanished. So just wanted to talk about that a little bit. So I guess the first thing is why Float? Do you guys have any reasons on why? I mean, I said that I think that there should be other reasons. I think we should learn more about the other quirks. But All Might looks up so heavily to his predecessor, so maybe that's why. But it could be a powerful quirk, just like Uravity or Uravity. Could it be some way where she can only do it to herself. But if she had learned, like if she had harnessed the One for All like to its full potential, could she have had gravity's powers? We're still learning, but that's kind of what I think.
So I agree. I was a little thrown off by the order of things, but when I thought a little bit about it, I think that they're trying to throw in a sense of Midoriya unlocked the whips somewhat. He got spoke to when he needed him, if I remember that correctly. Like, it was more of a unlocking it out of urgency, and I think that is going to be one way that Midoriya learns to unlock them. Another way that they're going to learn is by going through. They were researching some of the powers. That's how I took some of those panels. They were researching the powers of his predecessors. So I think they're starting with her because they knew her best. They still have people who are alive that knew her and trained with her. And I think they're going to use that knowledge of not only her, but that power to unlock that in Midoriya's, chamber, or however you want to look at it. But I think he was able to speak to one of the whips, because, like, the guy who had the whips, because he needed not only that power, because that power has come up huge now that we've seen it, but but kind of like the two routes of unlocking. One's going to be knowledge of what he has, and the other is going to be like, there's always going to be powers that in the brink of Midoriya's extinction, he's going to find stuff.
I definitely agree with you, Devin, on like the different routes. Like, I think this is going to be kind of like, because Xander, you were saying, well, why not, wait until he talks to another person? I feel like that's kind of that's unpredictable. They don't know when he will ever talk to them. And so this is kind of the other route, kind of learning it. But I also think from the, like, author's perspective, are they called authors? Like, are manga creators called?
Yeah, author.
Cool. Don't want to offend. But from the author's perspective, what I thought about was, I think he's the reason that was what he went with, because you could argue he could have picked any of the powers just and said, here's where we're going to start. I think he did that because that quirk is going to be super important now that we've done the time skip forward. I think that's going to be key in keeping away from Shigaraki and like surviving Shigaraki's powers, because Shigaraki literally anything touches, not now, it's not even, he doesn't have to touch it. Yeah. But like, I think that is going to be a major factor in it, and I think that's part of it. I think Shigaraki is going to be a big, like, they're going to drop into the city, heroes, I don't know, disappear in smoke or something, but he's going to just he's just going to drop into the city, and like Midoriya is going to need to use the float quirk in order to survive.
Yeah, I agree with what both of them have been saying. I think there are two reasons. One is because float's going to give them more mobility, and he already has the most powerful quirk in terms of just pure strength. But between float and black whip, that's going to give him a lot of mobility. It's going to be especially strong against Shigaraki, and just kind of even him out as a whole. But the other thing is, like Devin was saying, there's really very little information about the predecessors for One for All. And I think the big implication of this chapter is that we found out that the predecessors really weren't necessarily all that powerful as heroes. They were just people barely hanging on to life and barely being able to pass on their quirks. Like, they had to live in the shadows because they were being hunted by All for One at a time when All for One pretty much controlled Japan. Like, that's another like void century, just like One Piece. We don't really know what history was like then, because he controlled everything. So these people had to hide. There's not that much information about them or their quirks. They're not particularly strong, and they just had to pass on their quirk to someone who could just take it and survive with it. They didn't have the luxury of trying to find someone who would be the next successor, like the next great successor for the quirk. I think things got better when All for One kind of went more back into the shadows. All Might had the luxury of finding Midoriya after looking at Mirio. But the fact is, there really isn't all that much information, and float is something that people are familiar with. It wasn't too long ago. That's probably the best place to start.
Yeah, it was the most recent predecessor.
Yeah,
Right.
because in that panel where they say float, you see Gran Torino in there, so he can learn from Gran Torino. Obviously, he can learn from All Might. So yeah, I guess that does make sense that he can. They will understand better how that quirk was activated, and I mean, it's really like it's all about the emotions and like how they can channel their emotions. So that'll be really interesting, and so it's hard to talk about it, but kind of back to what DJ was saying about like life when All for One was running rampant or kind of controlling Japan, and so and it really took All Might to stop him. And so it begs questions like, why All Might? Because, right, so he was quirkless, so they would give it to these people with kind of crappy quirks, and then they couldn't do anything with it. But then they give it to All Might, and then he can, single-handedly take down All for One. So that kind of then leads me back to, we talked about it a while ago, but All Might's secret hidden quirk of being big. And so
his swole quirk.
Yeah, because for the listeners, so we talked about there's a film theorist video where Matt Pat talks about how Midoriya is not able to supersize and become Big Doria, just like All Might is able to. So it'll be interesting to see if that really is All Might's secret quirk, because we haven't seen any of these other people be able to even the past predecessors be able to bulk up. So it'll be interesting to see if Midoriya can then attain that power, because I feel like that is, when you give that power to somebody that doesn't have a quirk, how did that work better than giving it to people that had quirks, but even though they were kind of crappy?
I'm imagining that, and it just it looks like Gon in Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, don't spoil that then for him. I want him to see that.
Well, I have two theories that go along with that, and one would go right hand in hand with what the film theorist was saying, or what we've talked about with All Might having a secret quirk, which would be the bulking up, the change, the transformation. But what's to say that if he was quirkless and didn't have a secret quirk, that because of that he just got the first person who had the All for One's quirk, which we know nothing about? Possibly that is the transformation, and then through unlocking this, Midoriya would eventually have some form of bigger, Big Doria form. But my question, I guess, with that would be, do we think that it is just a completely separate quirk? Could it be the first person's, like what Midoriya has now? They're assuming was just the All for One, like same thing as All Might. It really doesn't have the same effect, or even is really drawn the same as what All Might's quirk was. So like what we're seeing in Midoriya, they're saying is like his own way of using it, but who's to say that isn't one of the other quirks? Like maybe it's just like they're quirkless, so they have a base, so one predecessor's quirk automatically gets transferred or funneled to them, and then they start building on the other ones, or something to that extent.
Pure speculation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, because we don't know any of the other quirks. That it could definitely. Well, we know that the first person who obtained One for All, like his quirk was stockpiling. So that was like, it was his ability was be able to pass down quirks, right? So All for One gave him the super strength, and then he was able to stockpile it and pass it down. And so between what they're on, so Midoriya is the 8th, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's 2 to 6 that we don't know about. That'll definitely be interesting, as I feel like we'll learn more, which is good that we're starting to learn more about All for One, or One for All, and kind of develop that. And I think, because 3 months have passed, it's gonna get this time skip. So maybe Midoriya will, because what they'll do is Midoriya will have the ability, and then they'll spend a bunch of issues going back in time to show how he learned it, and that stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, and so I guess the next thing I wanted to talk about was Aizawa tells All Might that he needs to postpone his visit to Stain. Like I had said, I thought Stain had died, I'm not 100% certain if he did.
I think he was just really badly messed up and he went to jail. I don't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think they established
said he
that.
passed out like standing up.
Yeah.
They were like so freaked out.
I was also
Yeah.
under the impression that he died, Xander. I would definitely like to fact check that going into next week, because
he's
I thought
alive.
I read that his heart had stopped mid. I thought that panel like actually said his heart stopped, which implied that he was dead. So
I'm like 99% sure that it says like he passed out standing
Yeah.
up, or like
Yeah, no, so I definitely remember them saying that he passed out standing up, but I thought it was because his heart died. Like, I agree with that, and I think it's they said that his heart died.
well,
No,
I feel
but they
like
took
it
him. They
would've
took him to
said-
jail. They
Yeah.
took him. They definitely said they took him to jail.
oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
feel like they would have said he died standing up.
And I mean, he definitely is one of the coolest characters, so I don't want him to be gone. But I thought that was,
Yeah.
I thought he was like one of those characters that had a big impact, and then they took him out, and you know that was
It's not Game of Thrones.
Well, so then what do you think? What do you think he needs to talk to Stan about? I mean, this is the first time we've heard about him since he passed out standing up.
Dude, I have no idea. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we know enough about that. I think that was like the hint going into something that we're going to find out a lot more about. Like that, the first little initial thing, because they haven't mentioned Stain since he was the hero hunter.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But look at how few chapters Stain was in and how big of an impact he's had on us, the fans. Like,
And in the
whatever this is, the implication has to be huge. I mean, it must be some sort of information on the League of Villains. You know, Stain is definitely somehow going to become an asset. You know, something like Hannibal Lecter, something like that. I don't know, but there's going to be something of that vibe going on, and I'm guessing we're going to get to see a lot of his philosophy, maybe even how his philosophy has changed since he was really impressed by Midoriya last time we saw him. So, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of person Stain is now, and given the big impact he's had on the story before, you know, in what ways is he going to impact it from now on?
Yeah, I mean, and it's gonna be interesting to see how, like, where his arc goes, because his fighting, you know, killing the heroes and fighting the heroes and his big standoff, like they talk about after, like, I think it's the chapter after that, they talk about how that inspired all these villains and like it gave fire to the villain cause, so to speak. And so I think it'll be very interesting to see where he goes with that, like with Stain's character development and how he because I mean, if he ends up turning and becoming an asset, you know, that would be interesting to see how that affects those out there that are inspired by Stain. I mean, the lizard guy, I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name.
But he has that entire monologue in his head when he's fighting where he talks about how Stain inspired him, and he's just one of a ton of people that are like that. So it'll be interesting to see if that has an effect.
Here's a quick theory that just popped in my head. What if they bring him back as like a copycat killer, meaning like he is hunting the people who have been affected by him, by his previous actions. Like he reflects on those, realizes he was wrong in the way he was doing it, and then goes out in search of the people who have been emulating him. And then there's a big fight between that lizard dude and him, and the lizard dude's really conflicted because he's fighting the guy who impacted his, like, you know, upbringing. Or so, like, I don't know, just a quick
It's interesting.
little tidbit.
I like it. No,
Just
no,
while I
no,
was
I
sitting
mean,
here.
it makes sense. It's interesting. You definitely are now making me wonder about them actually meeting, because he's the only character that we've been given that inside look into his like passion and love for Stain, and so
Right. But apparently there's a lot affected, you know, like when,
Yeah, but, like,
you know.
I could see, but what I'm saying is like I could see the lizard guy being the character that the author uses to meet Stain, so to speak.
Right.
Like on that, in sort of like him almost representing the group in a way, not like as a leader, but like a, you know, he talks to this lizard guy and like has an effect on him, and it sort of like reverberates.
Spinner.
Right.
His name is Spinner.
There it is.
Yeah.
And so,
Thank you.
so one thing is because Shigaraki hates Stain because he is the reason behind the whole League of Villains movement. So I could see them getting into him and Spinner, Spain and Spinner, getting into a fight, and then Shigaraki coming in and killing him. But then, you know, what would that imply to the rest of the villains that are out there? That and then they could maybe then turn on the League of Villains.
Ooh, Xander.
Yeah.
You're getting it. You're getting into this. I like it. That was some A money content.
Only it off the Stoop.
Only on the Stoop.
Please like and subscribe.
So then the last question that I have before we move on to Black Clover is, what causes all the heroes to disappear?
Yeah, that was my question.
Could that be? Yeah. Could it be Stain? You know, could it be? You know, it could be a million things, right?
It could be the teleport guy. They could have a big plan to teleport them all elsewhere, and it becomes like this. But you know, if there's a large scale battle, it's normally not going to happen around a lot of civilians. So I think that whole the heroes disappeared from the streets is a huge play on words ploy. Like it's just going to be like something like they're transported somewhere, the doctor or something. Because they're going to have Shigaraki kill half of Japan in a big fight. Like that's what he's capable of doing right now.
I mean, yeah. I definitely think that was intentionally misleading. I think all the heroes disappear. How? Tell me how that actually is gonna. It's a bit.
Yeah. You tell me I was gonna fall for some stuff like that? Come on.
Well, so I agree with what you're saying. It could be the League of Villains because in 255 we saw at the very end Shigaraki gaining all for one. Or we think that he was gaining all for one from the doctor, right? The doctor was just doing something to him, and he was like convulsing on the table. Yeah. So, and he said it was going better than he had ever expected. So, if all for one is back, then I feel like that would warrant all of the villains going, or all the heroes going to fight him and evacuating the streets. So, and like I said, Stain could have a big part because they could be trying to, talk with him to get him to join their side. Or whatever, because he just wanted to kill All Might, right? Well, now that All Might is gone, then what is Stain going to want to do? I think that's actually the importance of why All Might wants to talk to Stain, because that was Stain's only goal, was to kill All Might. He's like, he's the only person that's worthy of killing me. So,
I think this is just my opinion, and it's kind of just. I just got this feeling initially when I read it, but I think the mention of Stain right before that time skip point, I think that's kind of a red herring in a way. I think that was like meant to kind of make you think, okay, like how is Stain connected to the heroes disappearing? When in reality, he's going to be involved in some way, but like I don't think it'll be as like tied together as it might have seemed. But that's just my thought.
I mean, yeah, I think he'll be just, at least for the time being, be more of a support character where he's like a Hannibal Lecter type. They go to him for information, and we get to see his cool philosophy and how it's evolved with time with his interactions with Midoriya and also the events that have played out. I think we're just going to get a different perspective for now before we get any sort of action with him. Also, the other thing is, I don't think he wanted to kill All Might, right? He was saying that All Might was the only one worthy of being a hero. He was the only true hero in Stain's eyes. I thought Stain wanted to kill everyone except for All Might, but I could be wrong. I don't remember.
And he saw Midoriya and like thought of him in equal playing field as like a real hero. He thought that All Might was the only one that measured up to being that standard of hero.
Right.
Yeah, everyone else was an imposter doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
So they already set him up to be some form of an anti-hero, and I now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know what I was thinking having a character like that who they set up like that die so early. Now that we're talking about him, like, what? Why did I think he's dead?
No, I mean, like, because if you don't think about it for a while, like, your last vision of him, he looked pretty dead. I mean, his eyes were white, like
stiff, like rigor mortis was kicking in, like,
and we haven't heard from him for a while. So, like, no, like, you haven't thought about it for a while. That's probably the last thing you remember, and he definitely looked dead. But they just mentioned that he went to prison.
Mm-hmm.
And here's my just throwing this out there, because obviously, like, we've talked about, when we reading and like we got to the part with the hands and like Shigaraki's origin story, like there's been more and more dark stuff happening. So what do y'all think? And I'm not saying I subscribe to this idea, but like, what do y'all think of what if he just kills 90% of the heroes? What if that's just the intro to the next part? Is Shigaraki and that group are OP? It's like a return to the one all for one era, like you were saying, DJ, the Void Century type thing. I mean, how likely do you think it is that we're going to see a dark disappearing of the heroes?
I think it's pretty likely that something like that happens. I think that we'll actually see it. I don't know if there's going to be a setup like that for something that would be that catastrophic to the storyline. I feel
90% was optimistic. I mean, that's a lot. But
well, I think you're definitely onto something with the thought of like a dark era again, because of how they've set up that people kind of are leaning towards the villains, and there's like, that overall, like, there's the darkness, and Shigaraki is the perfect villain to like bring that in. But I would imagine that the way that would be set up wouldn't be something as I don't think something like that would be foreshadowed, like in the sense of what he just did. I think this is like they're elsewhere, they're in the plains somewhere fighting the grand tournament, Cell DBZ style, and then if he's gonna kill heroes, we're going to see a big thing of like Shigaraki awakening in power again, and then heroes will die.
Yeah,
but
I think you're absolutely right.
I 100% agree. If that's what was going to happen, they would have shown dead bodies in that last panel. It said this is clearly a typical manga bait and switch.
Because they didn't even give like that Shigaraki like effect. Like, I feel like if he was going to set up Shigaraki's big moment, the buildings or something would have been disintegrating. Like, there would have been like, oh, he's back moment, because we just saw him do something huge.
Yeah. So
I'm just getting dialogue. I'm just getting.
So I think no matter what, there is going to be a dark era, because at like the very beginning, Midoriya says, and this is the story of how I became the #1 hero. And so he's gonna have an All Might moment where, there's a video camera on him and he's saving. Yeah, Big Dory is gonna come out, and he's gonna have like 8 people over his shoulder. And he's gonna be like, everything's gonna be okay, guys. Yeah. With the train or whatever like that blew up, and like I feel like that is how it's gonna end, and that's gonna be the like.
Do you think he'll have hair like Johnny Bravo? Or
I fully expect him to.
I think he's gonna have a Super Saiyan.
Too.
I think he's gonna have a Saiyan, like
Oh yeah, the big old
big
Dorian,
big old eyebrows and everything.
But so I think we talked a decent amount about My Hero. So when do you guys know when the next chapter comes out for that? Did it say?
Should be.
I don't think it said a break. Yeah, so I think it's next Friday.
Sweet. All right. Well, then let's move over to Black Clover. Devin, you want to bring us into that?
Oh yeah. So in chapter 236 of Black Clover, we see a little bit of insight in the first few panels of Asta and Yuno. They're talking about how they're closer than brothers. And that they feel that, because they're not brothers, but they're that close, that they're going to treat everybody that they come across as family. And so it gives you a good little insight onto why they are, even though they're different than a lot of main characters, and, side main characters, I would call, that they are, they have a deeper bond to their comrades. And then it flips to the Golden Dawn headquarters, which is under attack by the 2 Diamond Kingdom mages.
Spade.
I'm sorry, Spade Kingdom mages. And so right now, William Vangus is fighting one of the Spade Kingdom mages, and Yuno comes to find the other one, killing most of the Golden Dawn members. It doesn't specify which ones are dead and which ones aren't. I'm assuming like some fodder character, Magic Knights are dead, and all of the important ones are still going to be alive somehow. Yeah. Magically.
Yeah, exactly. But there is magic. I mean, there is fairness.
So you see pretty much this one big fight chapter. You see Yuno come in, and it really sets him apart. A big thing that interested me, we'll talk about it a little later, was that, with the Spade Kingdom, it seems like they're working with the devil that is controlling the kingdom. He says in one panel that his rock magic is combined with devil magic, and makes it even harder than normal rock magic, which I don't know what the standard in that universe is for normal rock magic, but
Well,
it's
it
at
makes it
least
as hard as steel.
Oh, yes. Well, there we go then.
I
There is
actually thought
a
they
bit
said
that says
right?
something about steel. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just to clarify, he says it's harder than steel.
harder than steel. So what's that on a scale of human life hardness? About 3 times.
I mean,
as hard.
Zoro could still cut through it, so it can't be that strong.
Right.
So,
Nice.
So
dope reference.
so they're fighting, and he reveals that they're what I took is working with their devil. They kill their old king, who they said was weak, and now they go out and they're looking for arcane or zero stage mages, which they target William Vengeance, and for his tree magic, it seems. But they find that is another arcane stage mage. So we also get the clarification that is a arcane stage, if we had any doubt before this.
And what is the arcane stage again?
It
we
is
don't know.
They explain
They
it.
explain
And,
that.
yeah, so
Yeah,
an arcane stage is
Zero stage.
Well, so
right?
it's no, because Asta is an arcane stage mage, even though he has zero
that's-
magic.
that's
So
right.
it's an abnormal magic ability, right? So like Asta is one. I think it's pretty much like the spirits. If you have the spirits, then that's arcane stage. Like it's
Any dark magic like Yami's would be one.
Yeah.
Apparently this tree magic is because they said they were looking for an arcane stage mage, and seems like they're targeting William Vengeance. So yeah, that's my bad then. I got that confused. And you can be a zero class or mage and a arcane stage, right?
Yeah,
I think
the
you could
class
be
is power, but the stage is like specialty or whatever.
right. I think the zero thing is just how powerful you are, but I think the arcane stage is something special.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's something that's like different from the elements. Like I would think that the Mercury guy would be an arcane stage, just because it's not any near any of the elements. It's like it's like dark magic.
Yeah.
Like would light magic count as an arcane stage? Because that's what
Possibly. We've only seen it.
because
The time
But that-
magic is probably an arcane.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So yeah, it's these like abnormal abilities that were. It's like they're descendants from people that made deals with the devil. That's what I think that's what they said in like one of the previous chapters, is that it's because the queen or the Heartland, they only have like natural magic. So that's why they have no arcane stage, and that's why whenever Asta came in, they were like, "Holy crap!" So, so there's them, and then I'm trying to think what else there would be. And so the stage is because whenever they're fighting the guy from the Heart Kingdom, that first guy, it's like Mimosa, Noel, and Finral. I think that's who it was. I think they're all fighting him, and so he's just like, "Oh, you're stage 3, you're stage 8, or whatever it was." And so it's how well you're able to encompass your magic and like the stage that you're at within your individual magic.
Okay.
And so because, like I said, because Asta was magic, he was below magic level 9, which was the lowest, but he is an arcane stage mage because of his
the anti-magic.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so in one thing that was noted earlier, because they talk about like the devil magic in this one, he says, "Oh, my devil magic makes me stronger." The rock guy doesn't seem to be cursed, so whereas their leader is obviously cursed because he's got the mark on his head, and so I think, and also they mention that the devil that killed Noel's mother is the same devil that is controlling the Spade King or the Dark Triad. They do make it. They do say the same.
It's
devil.
also the same devil they've implied that put the curse on Henry, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
I think that is the same devil.
I think they said that his family serves that devil. I think it was hinted at, right? Because his grandmother was spouting off stuff about like, "Hail, Master Megacula" or something like that. But she's the same one who cursed the Queen of the Heart Kingdom.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Because whenever Noelle was in the Dreamland, she says they say that demon's name, and then whenever they go to the Heart Kingdom, they say it's the same name that cursed that princess, and they said it is now roaming the Spade Kingdom and controlling them. So it's all the same.
I think its name is Megacula. I think is what they called it.
Gotcha.
So
I was just gonna finish that. They're like definitely searching for arcane stage mages, which at this point, if we list them off, there's a lot of them in the Clover Kingdom. And then just wrapping it up, what I was going to say is it really puts a difference on Yuno's power level. Like, two things that really struck me. Obviously, the big hit at the end where he cuts through that magic pretty easily. But I thought it was pretty... I thought it implied that he was very powerful when he's not only dodging the attacks, but rescuing the people as well. And, like, the guy's shocked. Like, he pretty much mid-diffs that guy in 3 panels when he got serious. So I just, what do you guys, how in the grand scheme of things at this point, who do you feel would be more powerful than Yuno when there's not the elves involved or the devils?
So if you're not counting the devils, so then you can't count in Asta, right? Because he's controlled by a devil.
No, I'd say you can. He's not possessed. Like,
yeah, I would.
But
say
he's got devil magic, though. I mean,
Yuno's got a spirit, though. I think it's fair to compare them. I mean, they're both humans.
Okay, well, so then outside of Asta, probably Yami. Yami is hardcore to the max. And he's got that dimensional slicer. Like, what?
I mean,
yeah, I think that works against anything. I think that's going to come up so big. But I would agree that Yami, I would put anyone who has a spirit. We haven't really seen the other 2 spirits, but...
Fuego.
No, we have.
Fuegalon.
There's only one we haven't seen.
Oh, it's the water spirit with Noelle?
We haven't seen the earth spirit. The earth spirit's the only... I'm assuming it's going to be the earth spirit, but the water spirit is with the Heart Queen. The fire spirit Salamanders with Fugelion. And then obviously the wind spirit is with Yuno.
So what I think will happen at the end of this arc is the Heart Princess will die, and then the water spirit will go to Noelle.
Oh,
okay.
I like that.
I mean, like,
I like
that's
I like that. Yeah,
some money.
Good call.
Some money
Good
right
call.
there.
Because I mean,
I could definitely see that coming true.
I'm behind that.
Because they're even, what was it, her like sea dragon thing? I remember it was some reference for what
That's
it was.
why
It was
I
like
thought she had it.
the Queen of the Sea or something. Like they said that, and then she's got the super armor and stuff. Like, yeah, she's OP as hell. Like, and now that she can control it and all that stuff. So I think she'll have a big part in like because I think she'll grow like close to the because in like the last chapter they were like taking a bath and she was like, I'm so glad that we can be close friends. So I think Noelle will grow like really close to her because they have that same water ability. And then whenever she dies, she'll just go full rampage mode, and then the spirit will attach onto her to then help her defeat the devil and stuff. That's
great theory. Great theory.
I like that. Yeah.
Can we talk about for a second how great female characters are in the series compared to others? Like
Black Clover, they actually matter and actually have an.
I mean, dude,
they come absolutely clutch. Like
Barrio Leona might be one of my favorite anime characters of all time. Like,
yeah,
she's such a badass. Just can I say that word?
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, I mean, like, she's just such an animal, and it's just like it has nothing to do with her gender. Like, she absolutely destroys people.
Yeah,
and just
but
not
I mean,
her, like
really,
Noelle, Mimosa, all of them.
Yeah, I was about to say it goes for all of them. You can't really, if you don't even really have to think about gender. It's just like their powers in this. It's one of the few that actually, okay, we're going to give good powers to women.
Yeah, and then
I mean, very, very progressive.
Even like the witch in the forest, all of the witches, they're really powerful. I'm trying to think.
Vanessa.
Yeah, OP.
Yeah. Especially when she's with Charmy and Vanessa together are just unbelievable. Like that's.
Dude, Charmy, okay.
Yeah, Charmy out of nowhere.
So real quick on Charmy, what was going on in the last chapter where she was like attacking the village, or like what was going on with that?
She was hungry. Right?
She was just eating everything in the forest, I think, and I think it's like a sacred forest, and she was just going to town like eating anything she could find, and
she's
like
a dwarf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was just like uncontrollable. You know, she was just causing so much destruction by just being gluttonous. I think
a
that's
little
what's
comic
happening.
relief destruction.
Yeah, exactly.
And then and that's also an interesting point is with the dwarves is are there gonna be more that we're gonna find? Because
They just introduced a race of people.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's the elves, there's dwarves. I mean, holy crap, it's Lord of the Rings. Are there going to be the flying eagles and stuff? Like
orcs, goblins, urukai.
There's probably going to be some orcs later that we'll see.
And the One Ring to rule them all. Like
the One Piece.
They're connected.
But what do you say, DJ?
I mean, just one other thing, kind of off topic, but how is Vengeance still the captain of the Golden Dawn? Like, am I the only one bothered by that?
Well, I thought he was still like powerful, regardless of the elf thing. Like he was a power.
Yeah, no doubt. But are we gonna just forget the fact that he betrayed his entire kingdom, got the Wizard King killed, got so many other people killed?
So,
like, I'm not saying kill him. I'm not saying don't make him a Magic Knight, but maybe don't keep him as captain of the most powerful squad.
Well,
I mean, he completely betrayed the kingdom.
Well,
there's no getting around that.
Well,
the
here's
king
the deal.
came back.
Not only Julius is still alive, but technically you don't want that news to get out that the captain of the Golden Dawn killed the adult Wizard King.
Could you imagine the scandal?
No one knew it was William Vengeance, and technically you could cover that up by saying it was this guy who, no one even knows what Vengeance looked like, so he could still maintain his identity. And, I mean, they didn't write this in, but I'm assuming for the greater good of, like, not revealing that it was him and having to go through all that, they're just like, okay, it wasn't anyone that had to do with that. William Vengeance saved the day along with the rest of them. Go on with your normal lives.
Yeah,
right, but here's the thing: the Wizard King survived, but countless other people died. Like, this isn't like One Piece or Naruto where like they just got knocked down and they were okay. Like, people got murdered.
So
and that was entirely his fault.
So my thinking,
there's no way around that. It was all his fault.
So,
but did they have written backstory though?
So back up. Okay.
Yeah, dude, I didn't know their names.
So you guys got to remember that there's a 6-month time skip where he could have atoned for his sins. So like we don't know what happened in that 6 months at the Capitol. We just know that becomes the vice captain. And Asta gets jacked to the max, dude.
12 pack, dude.
Yeah, who knows? Vengeance could have a really good lawyer. They play criminal insanity, got him off 6 months. He takes some pills every day. We're good.
Good behavior. Seems like a nice dude.
But the justice guy was coming after all the people who just got possessed. Like, what did they do? They did nothing.
What's the justice guy going to do against tree magic, though? I mean, Asta went in there.
That's fair. That's fair. All I'm saying is, like, maybe like give him probation or something. I don't know. Like,
we don't see it. He could have a house arrest bracelet on right now. That's why he was in the Golden Dawn fort. He was like, good thing, because he was always elsewhere. So they kept him in the fort, and he was able to at least help out.
It's just a rock with a string.
I get he's valuable. I get you got to keep him around. All right, like, I get he's too big to fail. However, there has to be some sort of accountability. Like, he got nothing. Not even a slap on the wrist.
We don't know.
We don't know that.
Because Julius did say Julius said that he's going to atone, not word for word atone for his sins, but he's going to have to pay back the kingdom. So like we don't know at all. But
no, I believe him. I believe he's willing to turn things around. It's just like, I got to see some accountability here. I haven't seen any yet.
There's a plethora of things he could do, DJ. That's just off panel. He
just didn't want to write. He didn't want to have to explain to you why there's a new schmuck in charge of the group.
Yeah.
I got to see it. I don't know if
Bob. He's going to be leader now.
I don't know if I can forgive Vengeance until I see what the atonement was.
Maybe they shame walked him across Clover Kingdom.
Yeah, he's still the captain of the most powerful Magic Knight squad in the kingdom.
Oh, that's debatable. It's all about stars. Black
Bull's more
Black Bull's till I die.
Sorry. Second most powerful. I mean, Black Bulls are just unbeatable with Charmian and Vanessa and Henry and all of them.
They have
and
a
Asta.
transformer. They have
and
a
Asta.
transformer.
Yeah, between Asta, Vanessa, and Charmy, they're unbeatable. And Henry's just like, Henry just allows them to all fight together. So
he's Optimus Prime. Like, it's
tell me another squad that has their fort as a fighter. Like,
seriously.
So I get it. They would have had to pull some random character out of nowhere and like give some BS backstory to make him like on par. So
and then would you ever have trusted him after what happened with Vengeance? No, we would have been looking at this guy every panel.
I don't trust Vengeance. I mean, well, no, I take that
He's gonna
back.
do it
Yeah,
again.
come on.
No, I don't believe he's going to do it again. But I just got to see some. ability,
So
you know?
Let him off.
hold up.
He's
Let's
like Michael Vick at this point. You can't keep berating him.
so okay now look at
let's not
the.
make
All right, I mean, both those things were pretty messed up.
But let's look at the bright side of him killing Julius is because now we get Tiny Julius, who's arguably 10 times better.
Tiny Julius.
Julius, right?
Yeah, we get Tiny
The
Julius.
12-year-old mind of a 38-year-old. What could go wrong? But my question with Julius is, as he learns, are we going to see that Rolodex like keep getting pages like above Clover Kingdom? Who would mess with a kingdom that has a Rolodex? Just you see this?
Oh, dude, yeah. And then
and can he? Another question, real quick. Can he die at all? Can he just keep storing time? Like he's 12 now.
That was kind of like. I feel like it was kind of like Tsunade's thing. Like it's not something he can just do anytime. It takes a long period of like build up of like.
Right, but if he lives another 45 years, does he get another back end?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's magic, dude.
it's with that time capsule. Remember, because it was the stone that Nero and the first Wizard King had created. There was like the time stone or whatever, and then he found that stone in the capsule thing, and that's what he was saying. He stored bits of his like life energy away to that stone, so that he was then able to like reincarnate himself.
It would be cool if we find the only time he's
Oh,
Nope.
Anyway, we lost
Got
Devin. All right. But
Well, this is a good time to talk about our sponsors.
What was it? But yeah, so I'm definitely excited to see because the one thing that I love about this manga is that it goes from big battle scenes, fighting, doing all this stuff. It's like a little bit of cool down, like okay, what's going to be happening next, and then boom, more fight scenes, and it's just like it's such a good combination of everything, and that's what I love about it.
Dude, yeah, they gave us a 6-month time skip. Like, who does that? Any other manga, it's like, oh, training arc, perfect time for a training arc.
Yep, let me fill
But
in
no,
like
it's
20
not.
issues. Like, ugh.
Yeah, 6-month time skip. Like, we get right into the action. Like, the pacing is just phenomenal. If he can keep this up for like 700 chapters or however long this lasts,
It'll be one of the best mangas.
one of the greatest, 100%. Like,
Period.
we've never seen such great pacing between the fights, the plot. Maybe not never.
Kingdom is
Kingdom.
Kingdom's a different beast entirely, though.
Kingdom gives me hope that he'll be able to keep doing that because Kingdom is able to sustain such a rate, a fast pace.
Right, but Black Clover is a pretty straightforward manga series. It follows a lot of the tropes and archetypes of traditional long-running manga.
fantasy.
Real quick, what I was going to say before I cut out there, I don't know if you guys heard me, but it would be cool if we found out that Julius, this wasn't the first time that he's used that thing, because that thing's been around forever, right?
Yeah, 500
Someone would
years.
have noticed. Someone would have noticed if he just.
Dude, he's like 1,000 years old.
Well, I mean, 100%. I get it. This is like tin hat theory, but it would be kind of cool if we find out he's a little bit older, at least, than what we, he has more wisdom than even what we.
So the reason why I don't think it is that case is because I remember him saying that he didn't know if it was going to actually work.
Yeah.
Because he said he was like it was a straight gamble. So
Yeah.
I think that kind of signifies that this was the first time.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should make tinfoil hats that, like, when we spit out.
Dude, I'll be putting it on every episode.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Exactly. That would be part of the fun. Like, we could start.
I'm gonna be yelling at Devin to put it on for One Piece.
I will make one. I will make one to put on. You guys will just see me put it on, and you'll be like, "All right, Devin Crazy Theory."
So I can put it on,
You don't
go
have to
sit in the
say
corner for 20 minutes while we finish our discussion.
I have like a
have to say
little
a
flag,
word.
like guys, I got one. I got one.
Just put it on and just sit until we all go quiet, and then you're like, so, guys.
Hey, thank you so much for sticking around for the entire podcast. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. You can follow us on the social media. So far, we just have Instagram. You can follow us at OFF_THE_STOOP. That is where we post memes and let you guys know whenever the podcast is live. And soon we'll be adding other social medias. But for right now, if you want to follow us outside of the podcast, that's the place to do it. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful rest of your day.